In this video, every picture you see is a JPEG straight from the camera. Today, I'd like to take you with me on a little photo tour around Helsinki. It's not a photo walk, it's a photo tour. I'm cycling today. The camera I have is the Fuji X-E5. Yes, the brand new X-E5 with the brand new 23mm f2.8 lens. This is also sold as a kit, this combo. Alright, now after a few pictures, let's talk about the ergonomics. And to be honest, I did a short photo walk the other day. I received this camera from Fuji Finland, or Color Kolmio, who represents Fuji cameras here in Finland. Big thanks to them for letting me try out this camera. I received this a couple of days ago, so I made a little test photo walk right after I got the camera, just to get the feel of the camera. And the ergonomics, there is a little bit of like a grip on the front and a little bit of like thumb rest on the back. But still, after holding this camera like so for extended period of time, I feel a little bit like strain on my fingers, and I suspect that a little bit of extra grip might be comfortable or useful if you plan to buy this camera. Other than that, I like the retro dials and especially the aperture ring on the lens. However, of course, the retro dials, usually they are not that practical, but they look pretty. The other dials, the front and back dials for the forefinger and the thumb, they are these double action type of dials, which you can also press to find another function. The press function makes the dials feel so spongy and not precise, and I don't like these dials on any camera. It's not any kind of a Fuji thing. Any camera with these kind of dials, I don't especially like them. But I know that some people really love these, so good for you if you plan to buy this camera. The thickness of the camera also surprised me a little. I somehow expected it to be a little bit like a few millimeters thinner. But I guess it's the IBIS which needs its space inside, and that's definitely a good thing. And I don't think the thickness is any kind of a problem. It's just that I didn't expect it to be like this thick, the camera. But that's not a problem. I think it's only an upside actually. When you hold it, you have a little bit more to grip on. In this video, every picture you see is a JPEG straight from the camera, which I'm not particularly fond of. I like to shoot raw and post-process my pictures. However, I can't open the raw files yet, so I'm gonna give you the JPEGs straight from the camera without any post-processing. Now that we are on the ergonomics, let's also talk a bit about the film simulation dial, which is right here. It's a dedicated dial for Fujifilm film simulations. Well, to me that dial is a little bit like useless, because I don't like to play with the simulations. I'd rather have the dial like programmable, so that I could have maybe my ISO settings on the dial or some other settings that I use more frequently. However, you can't program the dial or assign any other functions on it, and for my photography that's pretty much a useless dial. However, I know that there are many people who really love these Fujifilm film simulations, and for them this is probably a really nice thing. They can play around and change the simulation on the fly very easily, and there are even 3 custom settings on which you can program your preferred recipe if you happen to have such. The viewfinder itself is quite bright and sharp, and I especially love the needle type indicator on the right side of the viewfinder, which shows you the over or under exposure. Unfortunately though, the needle is only a needle. There's no exact value of your chosen exposure compensation. Another thing with the viewfinder is that if you are unfortunate to wear glasses like I am, it's very hard to see the viewfinder from corner to corner. You have to sort of peek around the corner to see it, and this is very unfortunate, and it makes the viewfinder very uncomfortable to use. And the same problem is with many mid-range cameras. I suppose it's cheaper to make the viewfinder like that, but it's not very nice if you have to wear glasses. Now that I'm cycling, I pull the camera out of the bag and put it inside the bag all the time. And I find that it's very easy to knock the exposure compensation dial and also the film simulation dial while I'm, pulling the camera out and putting it back in the bag. On my normal photo walks, I would not do that, and the dials, these dials would not be any kind of an issue on my normal photo walk. But today it seems to be a minor issue. I have to constantly pay attention to the exposure compensation dial, and I'm shooting on whatever film simulation happens to be there selected. And because I'm not used to those film simulations and used to selecting them, I regularly forget the whole dial. So it's going to be interesting to see what film simulations I actually used when I go back home and review my pictures on my computer. However, the power switch is excellent because this little tab on the switch does not protrude outside of the camera body. Therefore, it's almost impossible to accidentally turn the camera on or off, which is really good, of course. There are so many similar power switches on other cameras, and the tab on many of those power switches, it extends outside of the camera body, and therefore it's really easy to accidentally turn the camera on or off, which is not good. Earlier in this video I said that the viewfinder is not very convenient if you have to wear glasses like I do, and many other people have to do that also in order to see properly. However, the tilt screen is fantastic, and it's just the perfect design for street photography, for example, because it allows you to shoot like this, shoot from the hip, and still be able to see what you're doing. It's much better than the flippy type of fully articulated screen. And because this camera is not exactly a video camera, I mean, the video specs are pretty good actually, but this clearly is not designed for video shooters. There is not even a dedicated video mode on here. So the tilt screen is just the right choice for this camera. The autofocus, well, this is a Fuji, and the autofocus is not bad. However, if I pick up my Nikon Z6 Mark III or my Sony A7 IV right after this one, I will immediately notice the difference. The autofocus on those two other cameras, it's more snappy, more reliable. Despite of what I said earlier in this video about these retro dials, for them to be more for the looks and not for the usability or practicality, I still like the Fuji retro user interface quite a bit. It's so easy to see your settings even with the camera powered off, and it's very logical to choose either aperture priority, shutter priority, or the full program mode or manual mode, whatever exposure mode. So easy and logical. I also really like the design. However, if I was going to buy this camera, I would definitely get the black version because it just looks so much better. It's more discreet, and camera should be black, of course. There's no other camera color than black. The battery life does not seem exceptional. The other day I took my test photo walk. I shot, don't remember exactly, but less than 100 pictures, way less than 100 pictures. And today I've shot about 200 pictures and the battery indicator tells me I have 2 bars left. And to me it doesn't look like a great battery life. So you probably want to have another battery with you when you're taking photo outings with this X-E5 camera. What about the image quality then? I obviously cannot really assess the image quality since I can't open the raw files. However, last summer I tried out the X-T50, which to my understanding has exactly the same sensor, same processor and pretty much everything the same inside. And I really liked the image quality on that camera, 40 megapixels, plenty of resolution, plenty of detail, nothing to complain. And I really suspect that this camera has exactly the same identical image quality. So it should be really good for pretty much any purpose. I think it's time to conclude my Fuji X-E5 experience. This X-E5 is by far the nicest of the recent Fujifilm cameras that I've had a pleasure to shoot with. I'm not even counting the X-Half because that's really, I don't know, I don't even want to say anything more about that camera, but I'm not counting it in. I'm just talking about the X-T50, the GFX 100 RF and this camera, and of those three, this is by far the nicest in my opinion. And I think the price is reasonable too. Here in Finland, the body only goes for about 1,600, I think, euros, including our very, very generous VAT. And with the lens, the kit is, I think, about 200 more. So I think, considering the feature set and the image quality and everything, I think it's not a bad deal. There you have it, my Fuji X-E5 user experience. I hope you found this video helpful, useful, and maybe even entertaining. Thank you so much. I hope to see you soon in the next one.